Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin, Tuesday, June 7th, 2016, around 8 a.m. and I'm on my way to work. It's 8 a.m. sharp, which is unusual, so I actually went to sleep early last night, woke up early, got a bunch of stuff done, and this is an awesome feeling. I just finished reading Stephen Levy's Hackers, Heroes of the Computer Revolution, and it's another book that falls under the category of how did I miss this? How did I go so long without reading this incredible accounting of the birth of the computer industry that mentions so many things that I should have understood long ago. And the Culture series from Ian M. Banks, was also under that category. It's sci-fi I should have really discovered when I was much younger, not when I'm 45 years old. Anyway, the Hackers book it delves into the history of the rise of the subculture of people called hackers, who were a parallel set of people to the mainstream computer industry, which mostly consisted of IBM, whose machines were incredibly large, incredibly expensive, required lots of skilled technicians, and did what they call batch processing, which created a sort of elite priesthood surrounding these machines, where people had to go and submit these trays of punch cards, and if they're lucky, wait for the output to be delivered back to them. And there is a circle of people around the MIT lab. They call it the AI lab, and it was led up by Mitnick and the guy who co-invented or invented Lisp, Uncle John McCarthy. Yeah, that's it. So, hackers was a term of pride. There weren't a lot of them in the world because there weren't a lot of computers, and it's the story of the generations of hackers. They were the first generation to sort of upset the apple cart of that industry had in mind for computers. And the second wave were working on machines that you had to essentially build yourself. The Altair 8800, which was a kit computer that you bought and you actually had to put together yourself. And the people who embraced it at that point were the second wave. And then of course the home computer industry hit, and it was much more accessible, and that created the third wave. And the story ended with, I think it was an addendum 20 years later, or 10 years, I forget. There's actually a 10 years later and a 25-year later addendum. So it's already an incredible book because it's got follow-up by Bill Gates and other characters from the book, reflecting over what's happened since. And there's a sort of longing for that, those lost days, and there's something special that happened back then. And when I look at what I'm doing with Levinux right now, you know, old is cool, old school. I am trying to pass on, shall we say, the torch of how special it truly is to have this kind of direct control over machines, to be able to automate your world, to actually, for the first time, have made magic come true for non-lifetime specialist professionals. So people could always do amazing things, but a lot of these crafts took a lifetime of dedication, and there weren't just hobbyists, or there weren't just people lightly taking up things that could produce virtual magic, until computers came along, and then suddenly everyone can. But now we're entering a phase of consumerism and closedness and intellectual property protection, digital rights management. As Richard Stallman would put it, you know, beautiful prisons. where we don't really own anything, and there's all kinds of ability for the publishers and you know, platform controllers to just take things back. You know, do you really own it if you only own it in the cloud? All these questions are flying around, and I was really impressed that one of the last questions they left off at is it all over? Is that special feeling gone? Is this something that is now a snapshot of time in our past that'll never happen again? And the answer is absolutely not. The next frontier is things like DNA hacking, hacking life itself, which is going to be a fascinating field, which already is a fascinating field. And then there's, you know, all the other boundaries and realms of science that we're exploring, you know, in, you know, the grand unified theory and everything. So there's quite a bit of hacking left. The first wave of hacking computers and bringing down to the realm of the individual things that previously were only in the realm of institutions and large companies happens in waves as each industry undergoes this cycle. And so, you know, I talk about Levinux and how I'm going to try and make my little contribution to this picture in the preservation of direct control of machines without getting wrapped up in the consumerism. But then there's another aspect of it, which is the homeschooling education that I'm doing with my daughter and Tardigrade Circus. Let's find the tardigrades with microscopes directly on lichen and moss. Let's create this product called Inspectacles that let you look up close down into that world. So, and eventually that becomes, you know, telepresence with tiny robots down there interacting with the tardigrades in the tardigrade circus that you've microscopically 3D printed. So it'll walk her through all those things. So phase one, let people remember my thing, Levinux. Phase two, teach my daughter and spark her interest in things like hacking and life science. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Those are my thoughts this morning. Hope to talk to you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.